we can do that. Unfade me there, big dog. All right, there you go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this Tuesday night edition of the Live Well here at Fish North Georgia. We are so glad you could join us tonight. You don't know how much of the we appreciate you guys watching. And if you're watching it live tonight or at a later date, or even listening to it on iTunes or Spotify once we put it up there, guys, we really do absolutely appreciate you guys. It's a rainy, nasty Tuesday here in Georgia, and it's a perfect night to talk fishing. We're going to actually talk about wintertime fishing. It's been such a long, I guess you want to say hot, dry fall. It seems like it's never going to end, but finally it looks like we got some cold weather coming in. And so we can only talk, top water and all these other things so much. So it's time let's just start breaking down, getting ready to jump into fall fishing. So first of all, what's up, everybody? Yeah, I'm gonna get to all you guys in the comments section right there. Been one of them days, guys. Hey, we all have them. So let me go ahead and take care of our fine sponsors tonight. We're gonna start off with Trent and the guys over at Sonar Pros. All right, you hear us talk about it every week. The absolute best, the best place to take for your sonar, all your high-end electronics. If you're gonna get it installed, you might as well get it installed by the best, and that's Trent and the guys over at Sonar Pro. 770-530-4505. Take your boat where the pros take it. And hey, listen, you can take it other places, but eventually you're going to take it to Trent, and he's going to fix it for you. And then we got our surprise guest of the night that's joined us here, my buddy Kevin Underwood with Lip Sticker Fishing right there. Guys, listen, you see it every single day on Facebook, almost without fail. This man puts his clients on what we like to call megalodons, these big spotted bass on Lake Lanier, the largemouth. Hey, he does sonar trips as well. He'll set your units up. But guys, if you want to go, and he'll take you to catch fish, don't get me wrong. But if you want to go after the true trophies, I highly suggest you jump on the boat with Kevin. And you can get him on Facebook or at lipstickerfishing.com. All right. And then we've got Evolve rod sleeves. Hey, we got them here at Fish North Georgia. Currently sold out because, hey, everybody wants one of them. But I got a new shipment coming in very, very soon. The best rod sleeve on the market. It floats. Your hooks are not going to get hooked into them. I mean, I don't know how much we could compliment these guys. It is the best product on the market. Check them out at Evolve Fishing or, again, Fish North Georgia. They'll be here soon. And, of course, the Money Saver Lure Retriever, guys, with all the money we spend on all these expensive baits, you might as well have the best lure retriever out there, and that's the Money Saver Lure Retriever. We got them here at Fish North Georgia. You want to get it back, you can buy these cheaper ones. Hey, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. This thing right here shoots through the water like a torpedo. It will get your lure back. Money Saver Lure Retriever. For those of you guys on the Lake Allatoona area, right here, you see the name, Mr. Bill Payne Guide Service. Fish with a legend is what I say. 706-280-2305. He books on Allatoona and other lakes by request. He offers trophy smallmouth trips regionally, seasonally, and also he will help you, of course, set up your sonar and give you a master class on how to use your forward-facing equipment. So Bill Payne Guide Service, 706-280-2305. He's quick on the draw there, big dog. And then, of course, we got a new one tonight. Brooks Anderson Fishing has joined us here on the live well as a sponsor. Guys, I want to read this, and eventually I'm going to be able to memorize it, but I think this summarizes what Brooks is about. Specializing in teaching forward-facing sonar to help you utilize and effectively target fish. Brooks enjoys high school anglers and helping them on their personal fishing journey, which that's a really cool thing. And he offers detailed breakdowns of how and why certain baits and techniques work. And, his overall goal is to provide success in your personal journey and to help you understand Lake Lanier spotted bass. So you can contact him on Facebook or BrooksAndersonFishing.com. So there's that. We do have a new sponsor for our question of the week, and we'll bring that up middle of the show. That's Serve IT. Got a few announcements that we got to make. Fishers of Hope. Okay, Fishers of Hope. Lake Chateau. They're partnering with the New Union Baptist Church to sponsor a benefit tournament for those affected by Hurricane. Is it Helene? Helen? How did we end up? Helene. I thought it was Helene. And it's specifically going to help those in the Mars Hill, North Carolina area. It's Saturday, November 23rd on Lake Chateau. Got at the Georgia Mountain Fairgrounds boat ramp. Entry's $100. It's a 50-50 payback. And you can contact Tony Watkins at 897 Heck, I didn't even write all of Tony's phone number down. It's been that kind of day. How about hit Cole Davis at 706-994-6099? And Tony's probably watching. Tony, you put your number up there in the comments as well. Also, too, another cool thing Fishers of Hope's doing. They are stepping up and paying for a spot in the Toys for Tots tournament. Now, here's how we're going to do this. This is open for everyone. But what you got to do, we're going to draw not this Thursday, but next Thursday. Is that Thanksgiving? Mm-hmm. Okay, we might do it Tuesday. We'll do it the Tuesday before Thanksgiving because ain't nobody going to be here on that. So next Tuesday night, we will draw it. So if you have not already signed up for the Toys for Tots, if you will contact me on Facebook through Messenger, give me your name, tell me that you're interested in the Fishers of Hope drawing. We'll put you in a cup, bag, whatever, put your name in there. And next Tuesday night, we will draw that. And Fishers of Hope is paying your way to fish in the Toys for Tots tournament, which also leads me to my final thing tonight. A little update on the Toys for Tots. Again, if you haven't heard, December 7th out of Laurel Park, Big Shanty Bassmasters and Fish North Georgia are bringing you the Toys for Tots tournament, brought to you by Digital Sportsman and a host of other fine sponsors. Starting next week, I'm going to start listing out all these sponsors. Each sponsor is going to get their own day on the Fish North Georgia group page, and you're going to hear a lot more about them. Again, it's $80 entry fee, $60 to the pot, $20 to big fish. First place is $5,000 guaranteed. Now, we're pre-registering right now. You have up to November 29th to pre-register. And I can go ahead and tell you guys, 31 boats have already pre-registered. Okay, I expect that to be about 50 or 60, and I know a lot of people are going to show up the morning of because you can register the morning of. But keep this in mind. You are going to blast off in the order of registration. And again, if you want to get out early, you want to go ahead and get pre-registered, and that way you know your spot. If you wait till the morning of, hey, you're going to fish, but we don't know where you're going to blast off. And also another thing, too, every angler has to bring an unwrapped brand new toy, and we're going to help the kids, the Hall County Toys for Tots, and we're going to help those kids do a have a happy Christmas. And so that's really what it's all about. We're going to get together, catch some bass. We are going to go live at 2 p.m. that day with the podcast there, and at 3 o'clock the weigh-in's going to be live on our YouTube channel. And so it's just going to be a great event, and I appreciate Big Shanty Bassmasters for bringing this to us and letting us help with them. It's just going to be a great time. So, again, there's information on the Big Shanty Bassmaster page on Facebook and Fish North Georgia's page. So, go ahead and pre-register and get ready to fish. So, anyway, let's see our comments real quick. Let's go back up and start. Good evening to all you guys. Cerebral Tackle. Yeah, I'm not doing anything on Thanksgiving, buddy. That's it. I'm going to be eating and watching football. So, hello, everybody out there. Listen, here's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's see. Earliest I've joined one, I finally remembered to put notifications on. Well, Cody Campbell Fishing, I appreciate that. And again, guys, like and subscribe. It helps us. Give us a thumb up. All that algorithm stuff that these guys are a lot smarter than me figure out, but we do know it helps us. So, good evening, Ken Burke. Let's see. Bassman, Big Malone, Michael Brady out there, but yeah, and Cerebral Tackle. So, guys, you also can check him out on Facebook. He's got a pretty cool channel. He likes to delve into some of those issues. Let's just put that right there. So anyway, all right. I got my man Clint Bartlett right here to my right there, Mr. Yamaha.
What's up?
Right there, Muscle Man, the man in shape. Muscle Man. Guy's been working out. Seriously.
I've been trying not to be as fat as the bass I've been catching.
You got Spencer Strider thighs, dude. And that's a good thing.
That is, but I got some. I'm up against Taylor Swift. I'm trying to get them Taylor Swift legs,
Oh, dude, you blow Taylor Swift away. You blow her away. And well, let's go ahead and do the board back there. Mr. Smiling Kayak Guy, Alex Purrs is back there. So what's up, Alex? The Quadzilla's in the house. That's what dude's got some quads. And again, my buddy right here beside me, Mr. Kevin Underwood. So let's start this. He's not on Facebook, just YouTube and Instagram, Cerebral Tackle. So let's start this off. And Kevin, I'm going to throw you a softball question to get it started. Had a long fall, but eventually every fall, these bass are going to start transitioning from what they're doing right now to their wintertime haunts, wherever they're going to be. So for those that might not know, give us a general broad sweep of what bass do, say this time until the water gets, as the water starts getting cold. Where are they going to start showing up?
So usually what I share with my clients out on trips is as we get colder and colder water temps, think about things that are going to hold heat. And that could be, anything from rocky clay places, for your shallow fish. This is going to be for your shallow fish. Could be bridge pilings, could be docks. I think over the last few weeks, probably some people that's been out with me has been surprised that we are fishing docks. What are you doing fishing docks? Well, some of these docks will hold heat, and bait fish will get up there around them docks, and fish will get up there with them. The other wintertime thing is, as we get colder and colder, your fish are, especially your linear fish are going to start to fill up in the pockets and in the ditches and the drains, in the creek runs, and that's going to vary, with we still got a lot of turnover going. So
it's still going on.
Yeah, still going on. We put in up at Laurel Park where I seen you at the other day. It's good to see you up there.
I appreciate it.
But we've put in up there, and it's like, we're seeing layering still down about 40, 50 foot. So, all of that layering of the water has to be done for it to complete the turnover, and then it has to settle out for it to get better. And we really need some cold weather to finish it off.
Yeah. Do you think it's kind of gone on a little bit longer this year?
It has. I think it
at least
really started while I was in Montana. We had that hurricane come through. I think that's when it started. I think when Lanier come up 4.5 feet basically overnight, I think it triggered the turnover. And I didn't think about it at the time because I was like, well, seeing a lot of bubbles, a lot of foamy water, and I kind of related it in the beginning to, well, we've had a lot of stuff washed in, so that's probably why it's foamy in some areas. But I really think it probably started then.
Right.
And it has been going on since, let's see.
Good Lord, how long has that been?
Mid-October, I think. Wasn't it mid-October when we got that hurricane that messed up everything? So I think that really started the turnover process.
It just seems like it has it's just gone on.
It seems
forever.
like it's been for 3 months, but I guess if it's only been a month, it seems like it's been forever.
It does seem like it's been forever. Yeah. What's up, Andrew Lasher? Turnover. Okay, so Philip says turnover started at the beginning of August on Lanier.
Up the lake, it'll start pretty early in some places.
Yeah. But even there, it's just drug on and drug on.
It's like, it's these warm days are very much not good for turnover to get completed. We need some good, solid, cold weather. It's just been bad water's just been looming around.
Right. Right. So he says September 27th was when Helene reared her ugly head. And so, but I mean, it really does seem like
the first one that came through.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when the one that came through that
after her, Milton.
Yeah. Milton come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
It tore up. We just got the rain around the Lanier area, but like down South Georgia, I think they had a lot of tornadoes, and so did
South Carolina
up around
too.
South Carolina. Messed up a lot of stuff.
It's been definitely weird. So Tony says, let's see, there's a couple of comments right there. So guys, Cerebral said yes, he is going to have an episode on the cheating scandal, and we can talk about that a little bit, but pretty much I think it's been covered by a lot of people. So if you got good information, some better information, Cerebral, that will be good, because for the most part, it's just guys saying a guy got caught cheating. And,
I've heard a little bit about that fella.
That fella?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you hear?
Yeah, he tied a basket to a marker pole out there.
Yeah.
He went to go retrieve the fish and got caught by somebody on a camera or something. They set him up.
So I might be wrong, but I heard that some people found it the day before.
Yep.
Kind of figured out a tournament was coming.
Yep.
They actually took the basket away,
yep,
but hid and videoed him or whatever, trying to find the basket.
Yep.
Whatever the circumstances, there's guys like them that can cover. Here's my thing. Guys, social media today.
You can't hide.
If you get caught, Whether this guy did it or not, I don't know. But let's just say for argument he did it, or anybody does it. If you get caught, there are guys in Pakistan that know about you cheating a fishing tournament within 5 hours of it happening. Within 5 hours of it happening. It just don't pay. It just don't pay. It's not worth the risk.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to integrity over the years, but it's, certain people.
Yeah, and that's what was Ron said. What makes it worse was it was a benefit tournament.
Yeah, I mean that's just like
that's pretty.
Why would you? I mean that's like lowest of the low, really.
Yeah,
it's
such an ego trip too. It's got to be. It's like he was the guy that not getting enough attention, and then all of a sudden, like he did decent in a tournament, and then he was like, okay, I got to win, or they're not going to like me, and then starts winning, or maybe it's a money thing, but still, it's like, dude, sell pictures of your feet online before you start.
That's it. Get you an OnlyFans if you want that gratification in that cast. Get you an OnlyFans. So, yeah, he did admit to it. And again, this is just from what we hear through social media. And so I would figure probably about 70% is true. 30% is probably stretched, maybe. I don't know. That's why I don't do videos on that kind of stuff. I'm always afraid that I will put out the wrong information. So I'll leave it up to the cerebral guys and all that to do the digging on that. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. By the way, nice horse, Mr. Underwood. Kevin is also part of the cavalry now. You done got back into horse riding.
Well, I've done that for a long time, and something I've always enjoyed doing is being around those animals. And when my big horse died a few years ago, I was just done with it. And I was kind of disgusted, and it was like your kid. You lost one of your kids. That's what he was like to me. And we went to Montana. I kind of got back into.
You got on one, didn't you?
I got back into it, and then. We got back, and my wife, she was like, well, let me show you this horse that we run into with this lady had. And she's like, and my wife, she knows me. She knew I was going to love him to death.
Because you're a softy.
Phenomenal.
You're softy.
But, yeah.
What'd you name him?
His name's Fury. I didn't really change his name.
Fury.
I like
it. It's a redhead.
Oh my God!
My wife's redhead.
Oh yeah, his wife is redhead.
I told her I was going to get me a shirt that says "Nothing rides like a redhead."
Finally, somebody cracked the joke that I didn't have to do.
There you go.
I didn't have to do it. Hey, so pull up cerebrals. This is not where I decided to go, but let's talk about it while it's on the thing. He's still proclaiming his innocence. If there is a video, it will. And then I think he meant to put something else. Again, I don't know. So that's why I'm always real careful. If there's video of a confession, we will never see it. I have to have that to 100% accurate. I have that to 100% accuracy level. And I get that. So that's why I don't do the clickbait videos and all that, because I would be the one that would get it wrong and get my ass sued. So how about this, Greg Everett? Pull that up. Since it kind of goes along with what's going on in Alabama, the great state of Alabama, I'd like to see y'all do away with keeping the fish in live wells. Weigh it, measure it, verify it with a pick, and boogie on. Okay? I have to play Switzerland on this. I have to play neutral because I am a platform for everybody's thoughts. But I see both sides of the equation. I do think that the situation going on with Alabama, I don't live there. I've talked to some guys that do fish on that. I do not think they agree with the decision at all. I also have spoken with Mr. Chuck of the Alabama DNR, however it's called. I do have a conversation going with him because I want to just educate myself on it. Why Alabama made the decision, and what I'd like to see. I think I got the standard reply that everybody else. But what I'd like to see is the raw data, the actual data that made them make that decision. And really, to be honest and to be kind of selfish about it, because I want to see how that would translate into Georgia lakes and whether or not something like that can occur here. So that's kind of where I am with that. But as far as live wells, I think one of the things about fishing tournaments where you do catch your fish is a lot of people think it's just catching them, throwing them in the live well. But part of that tournament is actually the responsibility and the part of keeping the fish alive and healthy. I do not have mortality rates. I do not do that. I do know that during the summertime, guys like Scott Barnes that run tournaments on Lake Lanier, they don't have them because during the summertime heat, your mortality rate is higher. I think a lot of guys, I fished a tournament with Kevin, and I know Clint's fished and all that. If they know the proper fish care, know how to fish, all that, have all the right stuff on their boat, I think the mortality rate's pretty low. But again, I'm not a scientist. I'm just seeing that firsthand. The kayak guys, those guys are all about the catch and release. Tim Hawkins runs the digital tournament out of Hammonds, and then it's a catch and release. The problem with doing it the way Tim does it, if people were going to do it, is and take the cheating aspect aside out of it, is those things cost money. Those, for a club, you have to make a financial investment, and you have to use an app and all those things. So I don't know. I can tell you for sure, we ran that digital tournament for the Beasley tournament after Eric passed away. Boy, I was surprised at how many guys still had flip phones. I mean, I'm not even kidding. There were guys that couldn't even, we can't load this on our phone. Yeah. So there's a lot of variables in there. I think it'd be interesting to see the science behind it. Everybody's opinions are personal, but I'd like to see the science. I would actually like to see if they tagged a fish and it swam off and died, how far did it go? What kind of transponder was used? Who was the one running it and all that? What are we looking at? What are we laughing? But there's a whole lot to unpackage there. A redheaded horse, wow, enjoy your hospital visits. Listen, seriously. Do you know back in the day, redheads were thought to be like of the devil, like witches and evil people. But we're talking way back,
Salem.
Way before Salem. But yeah, I mean, if you were a redhead, you were like, there was something strange with you. My son's redheaded. So, okay, so Zach Clark. We're talking about the cheating thing. Let's just keep rolling with it. I fished a tournament. He denied it and then admitted to it. He is supposed to pay back 1 year winnings and agree not to fish any tournaments if he took the agreement, or they are going to prosecute. So that's from Zach Clark out there, who fished the tournament that this happened. And that was on West Point.
Yeah.
That was on West Point Lake right there. So, again, hey, you guys were there. I don't know. Yeek, a signature hook set. What? God, that's a hell of a daggum screen name right there, buddy. Appreciate you joining us today. You talking about someone who takes care of fish. Mr. Kevin really does that. I fished a BFL with him, and he really takes care for the fish right there. So that's high praise.
Yeah, so appreciate it. Thank you. You know that I put a little oxygen system thing at Fish Long on my boat, and I fished, I put that on there in preparation to fish summertime tournaments, and never really got an opportunity to fish very many summertime tournaments, except for the night tournaments.
Right.
And I mean, even at the night tournament, you still have to take care of those fish or they'll be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, the water's still hot.
Yeah.
Even at night.
Even right now, the water's way hot for November.
It is hot. But let me ask you this: Do you believe? Have you seen the study?
Which one? The Alabama one?
What he's been saying?
It makes sense, because I mean, when you get into tournament mortality, thinking about the sheer amount of people that are on the water now, there's more people fishing than there ever was, and people are catching them better than they ever were because technology has advanced. People have gotten better. Bait technology has gotten better. Everyone's gotten better and improved. So what's going to happen is your bigger fish are going to get caught more and more often. I mean, look what it takes to win on Lanier now versus what it did 10 years ago. Obviously, the lakes evolved and all that stuff. But you think about tournament mortality, you get a high school tournament with 300 boats, and there's 4-pound spots, 5-pound spots getting caught. And they're not taken care of in the live well properly by somebody who doesn't know or didn't have the right education on how to fizz a spot you caught out of 40 foot of water, like things like that. So you have this tournament mortality of these 4-pounders are dying instead of where it used to be you just caught keepers and kept them. Now you have all these big tournaments with a bunch of where the bigger fish are the ones that aren't lasting around. So that plays with the genetics of what's going on in the fishery. Right. So there are a lot of aspects. And then you see lakes like Lake Fork that has slot limits on certain lakes. And I mean, you have giant bass, and then you have the smaller ones. So is a slot limit technically gonna help? Maybe not. Maybe up up the minimum size limit or something like that, 15-inch size limit, something like that. Who knows? I mean, there's so many different options of what's going to work, what's not going to work. But I think education is the most important of like, if you know how to take care of a fish in a live well, you're using the proper live well treatment, whether it be ice, G-Juice, Buzzer Rocks, whatever you think works the best. I started using Buzzer Rocks a couple months ago when I was up at the St. Lawrence, and I had a bunch of buddies using that stuff, and I have had zero issues with it. They also make a cauterizing spray for if a fish bleeds on you. I had one gut a tiny little bait, treble hooks in the gills, bleeding all over the boat, and you spray this little spray in there, cauterized it, fish was good, threw the fish back, like the fish stayed in the well for 6 hours of the tournament, and he was good to go when I let him go. So, I mean, and some people do Mountain Dew, whatever, to do that. But this was like a guy, the company's called Buzzer Rocks. It was a guy that fished in college, but he was a chemistry major. And he started this tiny little company where they make these little tablets that you throw in your live well, and it foams up. You put one in there every 4 hours, and it's like G-Juice. It just makes more oxygen in the water. Yeah. And so that's pretty cool stuff.
It's interesting. But I've never, and again, I'm not arguing right or wrong, I've never seen any regulation that went directly at tournament anglers.
No.
Like a slot limit for tournament anglers, but not for your recreational fishermen. And now, and again, Tony mentioned that in his comment right there. You can catch 10, you can take them home, but the tournament angler can't. So like I said, I want to see the raw data of why.
I think it should be across the board. I don't think it should just apply to tournaments. I think it should be across the board, or I mean, because you're not going to see an effect. Like, think about how many million, or I don't know what the number is, but fishermen versus tournament fishermen has to be a giant difference. So like 2% tournament fishing, 98% just regular fishermen. Like, we are a much smaller industry than we think, because we're all into tournament fishing that we are. But like, I feel like we're a lot, if the rule only applied to the 2%, what about the other 98?
Yeah. Well, according to them, and again, this is preliminary stuff, the kill rate is not near as high for the recreational angler. And again, that's just from the glance that I've read.
Makes sense.
I have not educated myself like some on it yet. So like, I don't want to really it's just a very interesting,
100%.
It's very interesting. The guy made the decision. This is why. Got a lot of people up in arms about it. Yeah. Right or wrong, I don't know the result. I'm just more curious of how that works with the regulation. Okay, we say this. Is it law? Does it have to? Those kind of things.
How do you monitor it?
How do you monitor it?
How do you hold them accountable?
Yeah, for sure. So let's see. Pull up. Yeah, what's up, Farmer? Pull up Cody's right there. We were at Hartwell last week, and the water was still in the 70s in most places. I'm not from there, nor do I know what it normally is, but that seems really high for November to me. What was it? Oh, was you on the water yesterday?
Yeah.
What was it on Lanier?
So it varies within 10 degrees, depending on where you are on the lake.
Right.
I've seen water temps down around 62, and I've seen water temps high 60, 68, 69. Of course, your water temps are going to get a little higher as the day goes on. It'll, wherever you're at, it'll have about a 3-degree increase, or, to a 5-degree increase, especially on a sunny day. Day like today, you might see like a 2 or 3-degree increase with the cloud cover. But yeah, it's a little warm. I don't keep any notes or any logs. I just, target fish according to what they should be doing.
Right.
Right. And there's a lot of things right now going on with turnover that has been affecting what they should be doing.
Yeah.
With the Topwater that we don't want to talk about no more.
I know. Well, listen.
But I will say this, just a little piece of advice.
Go ahead. Throw it out there.
Don't put that son of a gun up just yet.
Yeah, I know.
Keep it on the deck just in case.
And that's what's tough. Is like
cover the water column with something.
Wanted to talk about just something a little bit different, but the reality of it is we could. Ron said it up there in the comment section. We could have a whole episode again on Topwater still. I mean, it is
late season Topwater.
Late season Topwater.
Still fish, and I'll say this too. One of my best days on Lanier with a client was a couple years ago, and, you know, these fish were down on the bottom in the ditch. and we had a couple of consecutive, and it's never the day of, it's the trend that
Right.
you want to look at. You
Mhm.
want to
Right.
look at the weather trend. If you go out there and man, it's cold today, it's 25 degrees today, but the last couple of days has been in the 70s, your fish are still going to be on the stuff that they were in on the 70s. It takes a couple of days to get them
Yeah, it takes something to get them
going
going.
into something different. And you know, we had a warm up, and this is like beginning of January. We were in a pocket, dude, and I didn't have any top waters because I'd done took them all off the boat. We're done with this. We were taking little Kitex and just hooking them weightless and rolling them across the surface, and we caught the crap out of them basically on the top water right there in the pocket.
That's just what they. But
so,
they
I
shouldn't
mean,
have been doing that.
no, not season. You know, with no, they
You
shouldn't
can't
have
go
been.
by. You can't go by the
So,
calendar date.
You
gotta
can't really
by-
go by history and past data. You have to really fish the moment and pay attention to your seasonal trends, your weather trends. And I mean, that's just like what's been going on now.
Yeah.
I never would have thought I'd have been thinking about throwing a top water going into December. I mean, yeah, it's possible, but wouldn't be the main pattern that I would be thinking about.
Expecting.
Expecting. Yeah, exactly.
Which is why we're like, we're going to talk about jerkbaits and stuff eventually.
Yeah.
We're going to get
there.
to
We'll
it.
get there.
We're going to get to it.
that's-
I mean, you can throw jerkbait year round.
I got a
just
big
thinking,
bite. I didn't catch the fish, but I got a big bite on the live feed the other day on it, and I loaded up on him, and he come off. Only jerkbait bite that I got, and where I was at, I feel like I should have caught some fish on it.
right.
Just got one big bite on it, and that was it. Really pulled off, but you know, could I have went back through there later on, maybe got that fish to bite it again? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
So what's it going to take for that transition? Like we've got this week, it's going to get real cold. It's going to get down in the 30s where it was 70 today.
About time.
So is it going to be by the weekend? Are they going to start to actually go to that fall/winter transition, or
does it take a week or
like
two?
what's it
or-
going to
yeah.
take to make them start moving?
So, and I was talking with a good friend of mine the other day about this. There's already ditch fish, but
Boy, this is a weird year.
but the quality is, you know, can you pull into a pocket right now in a traditional ditch type scenario and catch a 4-pounder? I haven't really found very many doing that yet. I've caught some 3s, 3.5s, but you know, until I start seeing some big fish showing up, I'm not really running that just yet.
So-
I mean,
But what would it
Yeah.
normally take? Let's say you got fish that are sitting at when fish normally in a normal year, because this year's been screwed up all year
Yeah.
long. Normally, let's say, like he said, we've been warm. Now we're going to have a cold snap. Now, is it the snap that's going to get them moving, or do we need it to be prolonged? And if it's prolonged, how long?
I think you need like a good solid week of it to really get them to move.
Right now,
Yeah, I think you need a good solid week of it to really get them
get them kind of
getting in
transitioning
there,
and all that.
to get
Because
'em really
I know it's
loading
going to
up
be
in there.
cold, but the following week it's going to be cool, but not quite
it's
as
still
cold. We're
pretty
still
cold
we're going
next
to be
week.
cool though,
I
right?
think we're about to get that solid week.
Oh, we're about to do. Well, that might be where we're at.
That's really what we need to get these fish locked in on one thing. It's so junk fishy right now, and I've been telling everybody when I talk to them and I do our little pre-detail talk about what the way our trip's going to go. It's okay, so it's going to be junk fishy right now. We're going
Junk
to be
fishy.
doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're going to try this. We're going to do something that. You know, I really feel like I got way too many rods on the boat with having clients standing on the front of the boat with me. We're like standing in a little bitty.
That's dangerous, man. Oh, that's
But
dangerous.
just because, I mean, you know, we pull up somewhere and the fish are, you know, they're doing whatever. And if you don't have that lure ready to throw at them, well, that group of fish there, we wasn't ready for them. We didn't have the right lure, didn't have the right thing to throw at them. And, you know, and especially, you know, with live scope, you can kind of just peel around and look, and you know, here's this group of fish. These fish is up here on some rock. They'll eat a crankbait or a worm, oh, here's this group of fish out here. They're 65 feet on the bottom. They'll eat a jigging spoon, and it's dude, it's everything.
It is. It's been one of them years.
Nobody never really thought, hey, I'm going to get on the boat with Kevin and we're going to go fish docks. Dude, we've been doing that too.
Yeah, I was surprised when you said that Saturday. Let's pull up Luke's comment. And guys, listen, hey, we will try to keep up with your comments as best we can during these conversations. So Luke he's curious if fish caught on the south end, then took to the north end. What's the thoughts on how they adjust, or is it nature's course? Or is it a nature's course for this? So, I mean, let's just say we catch one. You and I fished south in that tournament we fished. Let's say we were bringing them back to Laurel Park. We drop them off. First of all, how many of those fish do you think stay in that area? And then secondly, is it such a shock to their system that they might not adjust to it?
That's the hard one to answer, really, because we take them up there all the time, but we don't. I've had this conversation with multiple people. And we have just about concluded that them son of a guns go back out and get in that river channel and catch that drift back down to the bank.
I think so, too.
I swear they do.
I think so, too.
But we do catch fish up there that, sometimes look like they just lost weight. Kind of like you got that, you say you was overweight and you kind of got that skin fold. You ain't quite lost yet.
Yeah.
You see these funny looking skinny fish up there and it's like, man, this thing it's funny looking.
You think that would have been a south fish that was fat?
Maybe that was a south end fish that got transplanted up there. I think a lot of times maybe the fish we catch down south out there in that clean, clear water, they're herring eaters. And then you take them up there, I think they may transition to eating threadfin.
I guess they have to.
They might transition to eating, threadfin. Not to say that there's not any herring up there, but I think that up there is more of a threadfin deal than it is
probably more
deal.
Threadfin and bluegill, wouldn't you think? Because you're up the Chattahoochee for sure, right there. Let's hit Philip's question. He just real quick wants to know: are there any tournaments that are on moving water outside of on the St. Lawrence? I mean, isn't pretty much everything up there moving? I've never fished up there.
I mean, it's still super warm up there. So, I mean, there's still plenty of tournaments going on.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, Philip, exactly. Rephrase that question because I want to make sure I get your answer. Let's scroll on down real quick. Let's see. So, yeah, they do need to study that. Mountain Dew works wonders. It's what everybody tells me. So, Ron, again, back to the slot limit. We're going to be all over the place tonight. We are going to do this the way I make it.
We're junk fishing through this podcast.
We're going to do it like we're junk fishing. I always say it's the way I make love. I'm all over the place. So that's how we're going to run it tonight. But I just, seriously, you just get in and go. You never know what part you're going to end up. You just go. All right. So, but Ron says if you're going to put in a slot limit, it should be for everyone. And I think that is the general consensus. We'll see what the data actually says. So, but it is strange. It is really strange to see one actually just target tournaments. And again, like I said, I'm not going to make any judgments yet, but I know all my tournament buddies are like, this is the dumbest thing they've ever heard of. And I love my tournament buddies. So we'll go with that.
A long time ago, Oconee had a slot limit. It was like, what was it, 14, 18 inches or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I was, pretty young then. But it was for everybody.
Yeah. Everybody.
I mean, it was
kind of like how Tennessee does. Tennessee's got a lot of weird slot limits per lake.
They do. Here's a question that I got, and maybe some of you guys in there know because we're talking about regulations, and we were talking about this before the show. Lake Lanier's got a 14-inch limit on bass, right? Correct. Number one, when was that put into effect? By who and for what reason? And has any studies been done since then on that 14-inch slot limit? And why don't other lakes like Allatoona, Carter's, or whatever, why don't they have the same limit as Lanier? Again, not agreeing or disagreeing. I want to know why it was put on there when. I guess the question I want to say is, what's the result of it? I mean, Lake Lanier's a hell of a fishery. We know that. Mm-hmm. Why don't all the lakes in North Georgia have that? Just curious. But if you guys in the comment section know that, hey, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear the reason.
I would say, I don't know if I'm right or not, but I mean, you go to like an Oconee or whatever, you're going to catch a bunch of 12-inch fish down there. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of them caught. Not to say that there's not some big ones in there, but there's going to be a lot of small fish that you're going to catch. And Lanier, if you catch 10 fish on lanier, you're not catching a 12-inch fish.
Not very many.
No, you're not catching a 12-inch fish. You're going to be catching.
And if you do, he weighs 3 pounds.
Yeah.
He's a
Dude,
football.
I've wanted to take a short fish to weigh in before
Yeah.
because he weighed 3 pounds.
Yeah, seriously.
Fat little football.
But would it help a lake like Allatoona? Now you know what?
So
That'd piss some people off if you put like a 16-inch limit on a fish on Allatoona. That'd make it a little tougher, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with your biomass and how much is in the lake. So, I mean, you know, and you know, I've had conversations with people before about, you know, harvesters. I don't harvest bass. I sport fish. I release them.
Right.
And I'm sure there's probably a lot more people like me who just enjoy catching and releasing them.
It's a lot of work to clean a bat.
You don't really have harvesting. And without taking some of them out, you're kind of putting a cap on how much that fish can grow by having so many in that body of water.
Because it only has so much biomass to support
there's only
a
so
certain number
much
of
that
fish.
it can support, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of that has to do, you know, of course, I'm not a biologist or anything, but I'm sure these guys probably sit down and they figure out, well, you know, this lake is so many acres big, and it, you know, this is, you know, when they shock them up or do whatever studies, this is, you know, how much we're shocking up. This is what the lengths are. This is, you know, and they put some kind of equation together as to how to come up with, okay, this lake's going to have a 12-inch limit. This lake's going to have a 14-inch limit. Well, this lake, we're going to put a slot limit on this lake. So, you know, these groups of fish can grow and not get harvested or taken to weigh-ins or whatever, you know, and, you know, whoever sits down and figures all that up is a lot smarter than me. You know, I know how to catch them, but other than that, you know,
going on that and pull up Philip's comment right here. I'd say that the tournament anglers are known to have ruined many a fishery, and that could play a part in those new regs as well. Alabama doesn't stock non-native fish. That's an interesting opinion. Some might disagree with you. I would say that, and I know Philip likes to fish for trout. I would say that a lot of guys going in, keeping fish in certain trout waters that are not there for the sport and all that, they probably hurt the fishery in smaller bodies of water.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's interesting to be able to talk about it. But again, that's why I said I want to see the raw data of this study.
So you probably want to say this is not the opinion of Fish North Georgia. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
But,
no, go ahead. I'm a platform, baby.
Everybody throws on the shade on tournament anglers a lot. And yeah, there's a lot of them that need to learn better fish care and how to take care of their fish. And they should put the effort into that.
Right.
Okay. But I think there's a lot of other things going on that people should start to look at too. For me, I would complain more about the spraying of grass and completely eradicating habitat. Because, you know, you take a lake like, I don't really want to say the name because I'm going to make somebody mad by saying this.
I'll say it. I do it all the time.
You take a lake like Oconee. Oconee used to have beautiful pockets for great habitat for bass, and they have completely eradicated the pads and the grass in some of them pockets that the bass use for habitat. Now, how good is that for your fishery? Something else we're seeing, and it's on the news right now. We've got some kind of blue-green algae bloom crap going on Lanier right now. All right, what is causing that? Why don't we do some water sampling and figure out, well, why are we having this kind of algae bloom going on?
Gainesville.
You know, you get what I'm saying though. But I mean, they put a daggum warning out. Hey, this is toxic to animals. Do not swim in this stuff. Do not let your pets go near it. If you have this blue-green algae stuff in the pocket that you're on, and I've been out there, and I'll tell you, I haven't seen none of it on the north end. I haven't seen any of it above Browns Bridge. You know where I'm seeing most of it at? It's down around Lanier Island. It's down around the pockets. It's the golf courses on. So I've seen some of it back in 6 Mile. So I think, we need to look into, what kind of things can we do? An algae bloom is caused by fertilizer a lot of times. Yeah. So what are we putting in that water that's causing that? Right. I think we should look more into that kind of stuff and, do an analysis of the water and really figure out what's going on there with that.
100%.
I wonder on the lakes on the Coosa, were the tournament weights down? They weren't down? So, eventually, if you're going to ruin a fishery, the weights are going to drop in a tournament because the guys that fish tournaments are going for the biggest fish. I mean, that's what you do. You go for the 5 biggest or whatever. You would start seeing that decline. But I was just curious if they had experienced that on the Coosa, on them rivers. On Lanier, everybody keeps saying, oh, we got too many tournaments. We got too many people fishing, all that. But good Lord, it still takes – it's like and maybe it will affect it one day. I'm just saying right now in the numbers of the weigh-ins, it's like there's not a drastic drop-off or anything. So I was just curious with that. So Ron Swinford keeps saying late season topwater can be awesome. Ron, you're a wise guy. Like that. He is. Keep on scrolling down. Weather has delayed an impact on the fish. Does anyone fish the mountain lakes of Burton, Seed, and Rayburn? If you know that, they're smaller ones. Great fishing. I know a lot of electric-only tournaments used to go over that way, especially Seed and Rayburn, which they come, if I'm not mistaken, they come out of Burton, right?
Yep.
They're in the so like that,
Burton, Raven, Seed.
Okay, so
Ron, I can't remember the exact order.
Right, junk fishing 1-on-1 right now. Keep on scrolling. We're going to try to catch up with all these comments. What is that? I fish a lot of ponds, and when we have these cold snaps move through, they get into their winter patterns pretty quick, and it gets me excited for a jerkbait and a flat side. And I think that's coming. I do think that's coming. I love a jerkbait. Caught my personal best a few years back. Eventually, we're going to talk some jerkbaits here. Maybe not. You know how the show goes. What lure? Here's a good serious question from Andrew Dree or Dry. If I mispronounce it, man, I'm sorry. But Andrew wants to know, what lure should I use for cold weather fishing on Lake Lanier? And I guess that depends on, number one, where you're fishing, what you're fishing out of. But a good general all-around bait. Let's do it for somebody that's bank fishing first and then somebody that's out in a boat. I'll let you take that, and Kevin.
If I was out in a boat, I'd say tight line and a minnow. If I was on the bank, I'd say throwing a worm.
You can catch them on shakehead all year long. Yeah.
Walk that bank till you can find you some good rocky point on some clay and throw that worm out there on it. Yeah. I
mean, it can be that simple, but you can fish really kind of anything you want, right? Okay, so there you go. So hope that helped you out there, Andrew. Ron says a slot limit might be a good idea on Coosa lakes, but not from 14 to 20 inches. 14 to 16-inch limit might work as well. It seems like a knee-jerk decision. Back to the live well. Again, right here, Fish Live Well Treatment does a great job in stopping bleeding fish. I like it better than G-Juice from Scratch Fishing right there. So, Tony, we are going up and down and everywhere tonight. That's another issue. It's an open-ended proposal with no talk of future data collection to determine success or failure, back to the Alabama slot limit thing right there. And that's another thing, too. And that's kind of why I brought up the 14-inch limit on Lake Lanier. Was there a reason it was put in? What's the results of it? Was there ever any findings like that? So Passon and Basson, appreciate you joining us. If you had a question for you, Andrew, he says throwing blade baits. Look in those suggestions again, and you can find a lot of great information in the comments section. A lot of these guys will get to answer your question before we ever get to it. Adam W. Fishing, because they don't have the staff to enforce it, and that's a tough one. Like that, how do you enforce this rule? Unless you just know that somebody pulled a permit for a tournament and you're sitting there at the ramp on a tournament. Other than that, how do you enforce it? I guess that's the only way, right? And that's a pretty big expense.
Well, I mean, they could,
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. Any of y'all fish Hard Labor Creek? Do these topwater baits work late November down there? The answer from most of your electric only guys is yes. Yes, they do. I would also say I know a lot of guys, that's a good spinnerbait lake. A lot of guys throw jigs down there, especially on the upper arm to the right, going all the way up. That's a big jig place. Hella bass. All of our reservoirs are aging out and silting in. Habitat restoration is the key for all reservoirs. 100% correct on that. And they will tell
wake
you.
boats don't help that either. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, the wake boats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would outlaw them things right there.
Yeah.
They're just annoying. But for sure, like just take Latham over here. That lake opened up, I believe, in 2001, 2002. Used to have a beautiful waterfall section towards the back. That has silted in. You used to could drive your boat right up to the base of the waterfall, and now you can't. And even a small lake like that. Well, imagine a lake like Lanier or all these older lakes that got tons of creeks coming in and rivers. So definitely with that. Poultry plant runoff is one thing. We're talking about the algae bloom. Back to the algae bloom again. So you got right there. Kevin, the issue is tied with the turnover as well.
Yeah, I'll agree with that too. Getting all that bad, funky water coming up, and
it could definitely
it could play into
it. Could play into that.
One thing we're seeing a lot more of, and I know everybody in here has probably seen it over the past couple of years. How many fish are y'all catching now? I mean, we're not in a spawning period right now. How many fish are y'all catching right now that has bloody sores on them?
So Alex is shaking his head back
How
there.
Many fish
guys
are y'all
behind me.
catching?
So I've heard it's from sunblock. Have y'all heard about that? So like when you look at where they're at on a spot and you're holding the spot for a picture, a lot of times it's around the gills and it's around the tail, about where you'd be holding the fish sideways. A lot of people, Stephen Barden, the biologist that talks on Serious Angler a lot, he was talking about how it's a chemical reaction from a lot of sunblocks. And like it's
like on our skin.
Yeah, on our skin that's causing an infection on these fish.
I know.
Which that's one story, but who knows? I mean, there's all kinds of different things it could be.
See, you just gotta be a man like me and go out there and take your burn.
There you go.
Well, I got, according to my mom, I got Cherokee Indian in me somewhere, so I tan very easily. So I don't wear. I probably should, but we had Shannon Gorman on very early in the years of this podcast, and we were talking about black spots on fish, not necessarily the sores, but the black spots. And even then, he said that's where fish. A lot of people think this infection, and it is, but it's where fish have been handled.
Mm-hmm. You damage the slime coat.
Damage the slime coat when you don't wet your hands before and you grab them with dry hands, or they get thrown on your boat, or whatever,
or on your measuring board.
On your measuring board. Yeah, and that's one big thing with your kayak guys. You say, hey, wet your measuring board, do all that again, and that goes back to being educated and doing what is right. And I think a lot of guys, they don't do that. Scratch fishing right there. Article in 2002, the 14-inch size limit and an explosion of blueback herring in the lake have the spotted bass in great numbers, and the quality is better than ever. That's from 2002. I just want to know why they put it in. So, and why is it not on all North Georgia lakes? Just something. If you can find that out, man, I appreciate you looking into it. If you can find out the reasoning, like, did it start in 2002? Is that when they put it in? I'm curious with that. Ron, habitat is dwindling in all lakes. I love the way this show goes. Like, we have the best laid plans.
We're junk fishing.
We're junk fishing. I should have titled this junk fishing tonight. Habitat is dwindling in all lakes. The winning weights were not dropping much, but the number of good limits are down on Neely Henry, where the study was conducted. And also, correct me if I'm not wrong, that study was done in the summertime. Am I right on that? I think maybe that's when it was done.
Sure, yeah.
Would that study have been different had they done it in December? So did the heat skew the findings a little bit?
I mean, you got more people on the water.
I got Dave behind me shaking his head. Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know. Throwing it out there. Surf Dad, I'm ready for the drop shot square bill bite. Nowhere to go right now. Come on, winter. Hey, guys throw that drop shot year round. At least I know.
I caught some big catfish on a drop shot this weekend.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Catfish do like a drop shot.
Yeah, I caught
a bunch. I caught one up at Chick one time in a tournament.
Yeah.
30 minutes left to go. Me and my cousin. I look on his graph and off the back of the boat, I see some marches, and I'm like, oh yeah. And I threw it down there. Pop. Boom! I felt it, lifted into him.
Yeah.
Oh, I got the winning fish.
Oh yeah.
I got the, and then about 10 seconds in that fight, I could just feel it spinning.
I did that this
Ah.
weekend. I thought I had a Gunnersville 8-pounder on a jig. I saw a big old blob bum rushing down to my jig, dunk, and set the hook. I'm like, get the net. He comes up, it's like a 15-pound drum.
Yeah,
I was like, come on, man.
That's what it is.
Thought I had a big one.
Oh, I know, Bill. Let's see. Jason Jones. Bill Dance once said, I ain't never seen a 4-pound bass in a skillet that will ever become a 10-pound bass. Totally get that. But I will tell you that there are a lot of people that, for right or wrong, will blame Ray Scott and the catch and release thing to some of the problems that we're having with overpopulated lakes. Now, I'm not. That's not Fish North Georgia's opinion. I've just heard people say that. Charles Wisnett right there. I want to hear about Kevin's upcoming subscription.
So it's upcoming.
It's upcoming. It's upcoming.
The last week of November, I'm going to make a post as to how to subscribe to that on Facebook so everybody can get that information there.
But it is coming. Right?
Yes,
it is coming. Okay, good.
Yes, and trying to do it, I'm going to be doing this live, like real time. You're going to see unedited.
Real time.
Like whatever happens.
Which is a totally different thing than other subscriptions.
Yeah, you're not going to see an edited video. You're going to get to see the grind. You're going to get to see, hey, if it's great, it's great. If it's a grind, it's a grind. And, whatever you got to do to catch them, people are going to get to see that real time. And, on my lives that I've done on Facebook, I don't talk a whole lot about what I'm doing.
But you will on the subscription?
Yeah, we will go into great detail.
There you go, dog.
You will learn something from it.
I like that.
Use it in your fishing.
I like that. Clarence Stower says, be careful trusting government math. Yeah. Oh, and let's go back to Surf Dad. I agree with you. Yeah, Surf Dad. All right. For you Alatoona guys right here, we should have slot limits and lower the total amount to keep on Alatoona. Some guys keep them all ridiculous, and he puts spots. I just think it'd be interesting to propose that 14-inch rule on Alatoona. But again, I don't know why we did it on there, but that would be interesting. If you went 16, that would probably be the same effect as this 14.
Well, you'd be
20.
winning tournaments with 2 fish.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, listen, you got to go through a lot of them. Let's do this real quick. Let's do our question of the night, our Serve IT question of the night. Let me tell you what we're giving away first before we pull up that old logo right there. So tonight, since we were supposed to talk about jerkbaits, but we haven't really gotten around to it. We still got time. I'm going to give away 2 of these ARC J110 SPs, and the color is going to be, if I can read this with these glasses, skeleton and mystic gizzard. Mystic gizzard. That's a good looking. They're good looking. They're good looking. They make a good jerkbait. So
that looks good.
All right. So let's go ahead and let's pull up my logo here, because from now on, our question of the night is brought to you by Serve IT. Serve IT is offering a fully managed IT services for your company, covering all its needs with outstanding customer service. And also, too, listen, they offer that for your company. So if you got a company needing IT services, they right there, it is just everything, the whole 9 yards. You will have no part of your IT that needs to be dealt with. They cover it all. But that's not the part we're here to talk about. They are looking for the right individuals with the go-getter mentality, who are bright, who are energetic. They actually are targeting outdoorsmen, because a lot of you guys are really good, really smart on social media. You know how to carry yourself with your business and everything. So they're actually looking for you guys. So if you're interested in a career in IT, check out Serve IT. Go to serveit.net and see what they got in the career section right there. Take a shot. I will tell you this, those of you that know Alan, that ran the TAA, Alan Brooks, this is his company. And I will tell you, if you know Alan and you know how he does things right there, I went into his office down there. You can pull that thing, you can pull it down right now. I went into his office. The motto of this company and the way that they go about their processes was mind-blowing. But so thank you to those guys for sponsoring this. And so again, here's the question of the night. It's going to be a quick one. You guys better be ready. All right. Who are the 2 EQ qualifiers for 2025 from Lake Lanier, from the North Georgia area? First person to get both of them in the comment sections. Yeah, we're going to do that. So, and we will continue our conversation. I think go ahead and scroll all the way down to the bottom because people
I'm
you're
there
at the
already.
bottom. You guys ought to get this quick. You're close.
Not-
Okay, you're close. Let's.
There we go.
Well, Darian Moss. Darian Moss got it exactly right via the spelling. Christopher Brown's was close,
but he said wager.
Wager. I can't give it to you on wager, dude. I'm sorry. You got to have that Wagner. Got to have that Wagner. So the first person to do them both was Darian Moss. Darian, hit me up on Facebook. I may have your address. You may have won it, but at my age, I forget. So if I don't have your address, send it to me Facebook Messenger, and I will put these in the mail tomorrow. Again, we appreciate Serve IT coming on, and that's going to be every Tuesday and Thursday night from here on out for the next year, and maybe longer. We make them happy. And for those of you guys that were interested in the TAA, just telling you, keep your ears pinned, keep your ears close to the ground. Things are happening. I'm just going to put it that. I'm not going to go any farther with that. Let's jump back. Where we at?
Right here.
Kevin mentioned fertilizer. I think this and sewer leaks always get brushed under the rug. Good Lord, if you fish Lake Ackworth, that's the case too.
Oh man,
Ackworth it has once or twice
three times this year.
three times this year.
Yeah,
You kayak guys are out there with floating toilet paper
it'll
and stuff.
stain your fishing line.
It will stain your line. It's so nasty. But dadgummit, it's got some good fish out there. You just got to get out there. That's a possibility. Bunch of bloody sores on Alatoona spots. Well, you guys quit wearing sunblock. That's from Clint Bartlett. Clint Bartlett says
You
that.
can blame me.
You can blame Clint. Silver Punk. Where are a good few areas to safely kayak fish on Lanier? In the summertime, nowhere. But I just kidding.
Thompson Creek Park is real kayak friendly.
Thompson Creek Park,
Bayless Creek
Bayless Creek.
is kayak friendly.
Kayak
A lot of
friendly?
no wake area. Around Blue Ridge Marina is good too. or
There you
Bald
go.
Ridge.
Put that camera on you when you talk. Beautiful.
Bald Ridge Marina is good. Thompson Creek, Bayless, anywhere that's got a lot of no wake zones.
Yeah, that's good. You are our kayak expert.
I wouldn't go that far. But
Well, you
I
are
am
in
a
this group.
connoisseur.
In this
You
group,
are
you
out
are
of
in
us.
this group. So like that. All right. So let's say we did that. So I hope that helps you right there. Silver Punk. Let's see. Clint, I've caught largemouth with black spots that look like fingerprints from being held for a picture.
Telling you, there's something to
There's
it.
something to it. Let's see. I feel like it's a parasite, but then again, I thought it could be from the boat races we had on the lake. I mean, that's probably, listen, I mean, them fish get beat up sometimes when it gets really rough, but I don't know the answer to that. All I know is guys are seeing them more and more often. So let's see.
A lot of big words. Be careful.
Right here,
Yeah.
Philip, he's like that, nerd. Lanier has a big issue with the oxygen depth decreasing big time. The hypoxic layer gets above the thermocline, and you'll lose cool water fish like striper. Now, he does like his striper fishing. So,
We have seen a few perch floating on the surface here lately.
Mm-hmm.
really,
Yep.
perch on the surface.
Yep.
Now, last year was when you got
Dead.
on something, but dead perch,
Dead
floating
perch.
already.
Yep.
He might be on to something right there. So there's so much to cover tonight on this. I don't even know where the goal of any slot limit is to encourage the growth of larger fish by protecting the younger maturing fish, therefore increasing the overall quality of the fishery, allowing fish to get bigger. 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. And I think a lot of people will agree with you on that. I think the problem is on this slot limit, it's just for tournament anglers, not the overall population. So again, this is to be determined as we go. I spit on my hands to get them wet before handling them. Discover Bass Adventure.
Me too. On
Yeah,
and
listen.
off the water.
If they want a mouthful of Copenhagen, they'll get it from me. I probably shouldn't do it, but caught one a few weeks ago that looked like it was rotting alive. So maybe the problem is water quality. For some reason we got an issue with the water quality. For whatever reason, whatever it's
Turnover, you'll always have some water quality issues.
yeah.
And think about what's going on upstream too with that whole hurricane coming through. I mean, even just thinking about Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, all that stuff's coming downhill too. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but I mean, you got all the destruction from that hurricane. So I mean, maybe that has something to do with it too. I don't
Ship
know.
flows down, right?
Yep.
Goes downstream. So that's the way it goes. So
Lanier,
Austin
comes
Leroy, huh?
Comes out of Helen and the Chestnut area.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think those
You got
watersheds get up
Savannah
there, but I do
River
think
chain.
it all
Yeah. I'm just saying in general.
in
just thinking
general.
about-
Yeah, in general. So, all right, let's pull up Austin Leroy. What's up, Leroy? First time live viewer here. Absolutely best podcast on the internet for fishing info, in my opinion. Thank you very much. That actually means a lot to me because at the end of the day, the whole purpose of this show is for guys that watch it to take what everybody's saying and catch more fish. So thank you very much. You made my night. My curiosity is, are we finding bigger fish, 3 to 5 pounds, offshore in the same spots as smaller fish, 1.5 to 2.5 pounds? Let me go on my experience with you. We pretty much that day we were tournament fishing. We stayed in a range of fish.
Mhm.
There are big ones out there, but we stayed in the range. And I've always heard it said, with spotted bass especially, if you get an area where ones and twos are together, that's what you're pretty much going to catch, ones and twos. If you get in with exceptions, but as a general broad stroke, you get in an area with threes and fours or a school with threes and fours, that's pretty much what you're going to expect. Is that kind of been your, you know?
I mean, I agree with it to an extent.
Right. And that's
I mean,
that's a
which
broad
you're
stroke.
always going to have those variables, but I mean, fishing's like women. You know, they're gonna hang out with other fish that look like them, that eat like them, and you know, it's a similar thing. I mean,
yeah.
you got the fit chicks, you got the fat chicks, you got the girls that are kind of in between, and some of them that like to hang out with each other. I mean, it's
you got them girls that hang out with them big old thick girls, so
Mhm.
it makes them look better.
oh yeah,
Thicky thick.
Yeah.
Listen, but yet, albeit a very interesting way to put it, it is kind of true.
To hang out with some uglier dudes than me. I mean,
What are you saying? What are you saying right there? I got a face made
Makes
for
you
radio.
look better.
It makes me look well. Listen, but that is you're, even though it's a great
Yeah.
interesting, but it is kind of true.
But just like I was just being silly there, but like think about on a dock though, you can have a tiny little bluegill, you can have a bunch of crappie, you can have a 12-inch spotted bass, and you can have 7-pound largemouth all under the same dock.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, that's where like when you relate it to structure, it's a little bit different. Whereas offshore structure, whether it be rock pile, bars, ditches, things like that, I feel like those are more of those school-oriented fish that are going to run in a similar size.
I mean, that's a good point. That
But
makes sense.
I want to hear what he has
It's
to
not
say.
scientific, but it makes
Yeah.
sense to me logically. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we'll catch a 1.5 pounder, and then we'll throw back up there. We'll catch a daggone 6-pound spot sometimes.
Yeah.
Same daggone place.
Now you talking about are you talking about shallow, or are you talking about just in general everywhere?
Everywhere.
So you don't find that to be
But
true.
let me say this, and without going into too much detail on baits and exactly what we were doing, that tournament that me and you fished, just about everything we caught that day was right around a 4-pounder, was it not?
Yes, it was. That's what we were so
We were
consistent.
sitting there like, I don't know which one to call out.
It was incredible.
I really don't.
Yeah.
But what we figured out was, yeah, were they some small fish out there running around in packs? I'm sure they were. But we figured out a certain lure presentation that would make those better quality fish bite.
Yeah.
And it was one lure all day long that we used.
Yeah.
And, you know, we did different things throughout the day, but we kept going back to that one thing. And every time we went back to it, 4-pounder, 4-pounder,
Yeah.
4-pounder, 4-pounder, 4-pounder.
Yeah.
So we kind of dialed that in with that group of fish
Yeah.
and that lure presentation.
You know what made me feel good right there? He said we. He said we, baby. I was a supporting cast.
You were targeting those fish with a net. He was targeting with the
Dang
bait.
right. I told him I was the best net man he had ever seen, and he put me to work that day. I really appreciate you saying we.
Hey.
But I tell you what, I mean, it was a team thing.
Yeah.
Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to catch them. Somebody had to net them. But I will say this, though, you're right, though, with that.
Mhm.
Once that was figured out, it
Yep.
was so consistent.
Yep.
Boom, boom, boom. Because I think the smallest fish we caught that day might have been a 314, and the biggest one was a 4.3, but we caught so many
Mhm.
in that range. He's not lying when we said we were holding up fish like it's just the same fish. Which one's prettier? Which one looks fatter? I mean, because they weren't moving the scale. I was like, I like that one, you know. So the slot limit was established and started on Lake Lanier in 1999. Very interesting. Appreciate that information right there. And I would love to Man, hey, Scratch, you're on this. This is your assignment from Fish North Georgia. And if you can find it tonight, that's fine. Can you find out why it was
The
established?
research history guy.
Scratch is on it, dude. I love a guy that takes the initiative
There you
right
go.
there. That's why I love our viewers. I mean, trust me, it ain't all about what we know. It's what you guys know.
War Hill Park is a phenomenal wintertime area, and if you go out there and fish the old road bed,
Mm-hmm.
you might get on something.
Listen, I love it when you guys
he's
say
back there saying,
that. I love it when guys go, shh. Like 42 million people know about that road bed in War Hill Park. I don't even fish it that often. I know about that road bed in War Hill Park. But he is right. A lot of good success in cold weather in War Hill. It definitely is a good spot.
Yep.
Definitely a good spot. Is the second hour getting into winter info, fishing info? Hell, I don't know, Steve. We're trying. We're trying to go get all these comments and then we'll jump into it. Keep on slinging down. Let's just see. Surf Dad likes the 14-inch limit on Allatoona. We'll see. I don't know if that. All right. So now we go through our. Pull up that. The DNR had a meeting about slot limits on Allatoona a few years ago, and there was not enough public interest or support. Very interesting. So back to Alabama, I wonder how much the public interest and support was for what they did. When you get around Holly Park, all you smell is sewer. I haven't been able to smell since COVID. So, guys, if it stinks, I could tell
did
you.
smell something. I was on Lanier yesterday, and it smelled like shit when I rolled up. When we rolled up at Charleston Park, I was like, I asked my buddy Ian. I was like, is that here? Because I knew. Never mind.
You thought it was him?
I thought it was him.
It was fish farts.
Yeah.
Is that what?
Done eating the shad.
Listen, I'm not
We
lying.
both ended up on the bank that day. So.
I'm not lying. I have not been able to smell since the first round of COVID. And so guys talk about stuff stinking. I'm like, I can't smell it. So I just have to take y'all's word for it.
God, so you wake up in the middle of the night after some kefir and you just don't know.
No, I just don't, because my back of my legs warm right there. So is the north side of Lake Lanier best for bass fishing? Andrew, I would say the entire lake is absolutely phenomenal for bass fishing. Depending on what you like to do, what the way you like to target fish, depends on whether north or south. I would say the general consensus is and Kevin's going to definitely correct me on this, but I'm telling you the broad general consensus is north end is more largemouth and smaller spots. South end is bigger spots, less largemouth. I know that to not be true, but that's the general consensus.
We can go by consensus.
Yeah, we can go by consensus on that.
You can go by the consensus.
That's right. So it's good. It depends on what you want to fish for. And for Steve in the wintertime, let's do this so we can throw in some wintertime fishing. On the north end of Lake Lanier, right, in cold, in the wintertime, what are you throwing if you're up there?
Lanier, I would definitely on the north end of Lanier any time throughout the winter. Yeah, you'll have some fish doing the ditch bite thing up there too at times, but I would not pass up at least checking on the clay, rocky banks. If I've seen a clay bank with some rock on it, I'd go up there and throw a worm on it, throw a crankbait on it, throw a jerkbait on it, slow roll a spinnerbait on it, even slow roll your Kitech or tight line your minnow down it.
On a clay bank with rock.
Clay bank with rock.
There you go. So, all right.
I would look at that, and mix that in with some ditch fishing up there too.
Yeah.
They'll get up there in them too up there.
Okay, so Mike and Wendy Rice, y'all got Slick Johnson beat. Listen, Slick's my buddy. So Slick is Slick. Let's just put it that way. What's the best technique with this late fall? It's cold in the morning, but hot in the afternoon. Either one of y'all. Hell, I'm in the tackle shop. I can tell you the best technique is whatever you guys want to do.
Right now, at any given time, man, anything could light up and produce fish with the lake turning over. I would still go check on some of them brush fish later in the day and see if they're coming up in the tops of those brush piles. Starting out cold in the morning, I'd maybe go throw a shaky head around some rock, We've tried to do some cranking here lately. We really hadn't been that successful with it. It's been more of a finesse jump fishing couple of weeks for me.
Yeah, but that crankbait's getting ready to come on.
I thought it was going to happen this full moon phase, and we have tried it a few times, and it just has.
I threw one till my arm fell off yesterday.
Yeah.
It just has not happened. And I mean, I feel like if I run some certain places with that crankbait, I ought to produce a fish, and it's just
Not happening.
No.
All right, pull up, go up to yeah. Pull that one up right there from scratch. Are you saying the slot limit on Lanier spotted bass is different for tournament anglers versus recreational anglers? No, and it's not really a slot limit on Lanier. It's just that minimum length limit. But on the Coosa River, that was what we were talking about earlier. On the Coosa River, that slot limit, 14 to 20 inches, is specifically against tournament anglers. Recreational fishermen do not have to abide by that. Hard to beat a good live well episode. Well, appreciate it, Charles. I'm midway through my work week and can't wait to go fishing. I would say that I'm actually going to go to the woods. If that cold weather's coming in, I got to go take care of my deer, fill up my freezer a little bit. Cody Campbell, right there. We have a high school tournament in February on Lanier. My confidence is in shallow, dirty water. So I'm planning to stay shallow, get away from the pressure, and on the points. Any tips for the north end? So he's going to be in February. So this is a true wintertime question for the north end of Lake Lanier in the winter.
Basically what I just said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You would love your favorite thing though is target those clay
I would
with rocks.
Yep.
Worm, crankbait, whatever.
And be thinking what'll hold heat. What's going to hold heat? Those clay rocky banks are going to hold heat.
Gotcha. Eric, did I hear Lanier is going to 15-inch spots? I haven't heard that. So if you got that from anything we said.
I've heard that from a few people.
Really?
I have heard that from a few people, but I hadn't really seen it in writing yet.
Generally,
where that info is coming from.
Okay, so there you go. Derek O, do you all know of anyone out there following Shannon Gorman's suggestion of harvesting fish that are too underweight for their length and their age? I will say this: he uses a thing called relative weight. That he has a scale, and there's many such scales out there that will tell you a fish at 17 inches should weigh X. And if it's a 17-inch fish and under that, then that thing is in poor condition. If it's a 17-inch and it weighs above that, the fishery is good, got plenty of baits. As far as harvesting fish, underweight for their length of age, I guess it's all lake dependent. I do know that he does promote things like that, so I would reach out to him directly. So as far as anyone following it, no, I don't know of anyone personally. Anyone started slowing down on jigs and such due to water temps on tuna yet? Now, when you say slowing down on jigs, is that the way you're working them? So you throwed any jigs at all lately?
I've thrown some little finesse jigs.
How are you working them fast, or are you working them very slow?
Maybe
just dragging them
and then let it fall, drag.
Yeah, I drag a jig like it's February all year.
You do. You're notorious for dragging.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Have we caught up with the comments?
Yes, sir.
Whew. Guys, again, if you got any other questions, you still can throw them out there. Let's talk about jerkbaits, because I did put that in the title. All right.
Sweet.
I did put it in there. And the reason I brought it up is because I absolutely have zero confidence in a jerkbait. I have zero. My jerkbait growing up was the floating Rapala that I could take to a farm pond, jerk it, and get blowed up. But jerkbaits now has become such a specific technique. You get them down in the wintertime, you got to go real slow, pause, wait, pause. Some guys do it fast. So first of all, let's just start. What are the best areas in the winter? Let's say dead of winter. Coldest part it gets. What are the best areas to throw a jerkbait? Does it need to be windy? Do you got to have ripple on the water? What are we looking for when it comes to a jerkbait bite in the wintertime on lakes in North Georgia? Either one of you guys.
Don't let him take it first this time.
All right. So I'm looking for bait, first of all. Like you're looking for birds, seeing if birds are moving around. If you got electronics, you're looking around, looking for bait. Trying to find wind. Wind is your friend, especially this time of year when fish are eating. They have so much bait just any little bit of cover to help you out on like when it's slick and bluebird like it was yesterday. Like I threw a jerkbait some, and they would come up out of 20 foot of water to come look at it, and they'd hit the brakes. And it was like, okay, well, I don't have enough cover, nothing to go. And like there wasn't a whole lot of bait around, like to make them actually commit. Like when you throw it into a bait ball where there's a big hole in the middle of that bait ball, you're more likely to get bit as soon as that jerkbait comes outside of that bait ball. But so I'd be looking at your points, your humps, your structure, like looking for those late season brush pile fish. You can catch them on a jerkbait if they're set up high, and you can rip it through it. But all that changes is with your water temperature. You kind of want to adjust your cadence to the water temperature. So like right now we're sitting in the mid 60s, you're ripping that thing. But here in about, whatever this cold front does here in a couple of weeks, it could be to where you are doing the twitch, and you're starting to slow down. And then a month goes by and you're sitting there.
Yeah. And which is crazy because I have all the patience in the world for a weightless wacky rig.
Mm-hmm.
Throw it over a 40-foot brush pile and I'll let it sink and I'll eat a sandwich. I'll do whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's just very difficult for me as an angler to throw that jerkbait out there and go that slow. Mm-hmm. And just knowing, again, and I guess it depends on whether your jerkbait is a sinking type or if it's one that stays stationary. But you're saying you got to relate it to bait. That's what you like to do. Relate it to bait.
Yeah, I like relating it to bait, and then just like putting it in places to make a fish react. Because it's the ultimate reaction bait. Because it sits there in their face. They're chasing it, and then it stops. Half of them run into it sometimes. Not anymore, but they used to run into it. It seems like.
What do you think there, Mr. Underwood?
I like throwing a jerkbait on bluffy rocks in the wintertime. Of course, pay attention if you got bait around, kind of like what he said. Another thing is I'll throw that jerkbait on the rocky clay stuff, like what I've been talking about. That's another lure that I would use on that stuff. And, if you're popping that thing on them rocks, hitting them rocks with it, a lot of times that'll trigger a reaction bite. I'm one of those guys, I'll throw a jerkbait into a laydown. Mm-hmm. I'm one of them guys that'll get hung up. I will go up there and get my $20 jerkbait out of the tree.
I hope you're using the money lure, money saver lure retriever.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah, gotta get that plug in right there.
But yeah, I think a lot of times if you got like a piece of cover, like a lay down on a rocky clay kind of bank, that could be really good with a jerkbait, and it's something that not a lot of people are doing. What he was saying about the bait. A lot of times you can find an area with your side scans, got a lot of bait, a lot of fish up in the bait. Match your jerkbait up, match the depth of how deep your jerkbait runs to where the fish are setting in the bait or attacking the bait. Like if you're seeing fish, and this is a scoping deal. If you're seeing fish hitting bait in, 10 feet under the surface, take you like a Vision 110+1 and jerk that jerkbait through there and see if you can move that bait with the jerkbait and get them fish to react. A lot of times them fish will just sit out there kind of inactive in that bait, and you can take that jerkbait and hit those bait balls with it and get them fish to react. Again, this is a forward-facing sonar deal. Without forward sonar, I would be targeting the rocky clay kind of stuff. That would be my go-to thing for that.
Do you agree with him on when is your friend with the jerkbait?
Not always. I've caught them really, really good with zero wind on it before. Actually, one of my big bites the other day came on a jerkbait. I didn't land the fish, but it was a really good fish. Zero wind. I was on a bluffy rock. It was like 90-degree drop, and then it dropped to about 20 foot. That's the kind of bluffy place I was on, and I was on the north end of the lake. You probably know exactly where I was at after saying that. But
I think I do.
Yeah, you
I
probably
think I do. I do.
But I had a really good bite on it. And that wasn't no scoping fish. That was a fish that was up there kind of glued to some rock in a hole in the rock somewhere. Just fishing an area that had a lot of bait. Throwing that jerk bait up there and trying to hit the sides of the rocky, bluffy stuff, and got a really good bite doing it. Another thing with a jerk bait is I'm going to go back and talk about topwater fish here for just a second.
That's okay. Hell, we've been all over the place. So
your topwater fish that you've been catching will turn into jerkbait fish before they leave those areas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
good
something
point.
to think about. Those fish will turn into jerkbait fish before they leave.
Why is that?
Well, they'll get to a point to where they'll stop coming up.
But they'll hit that 4 to 5 foot under the
down
surface.
to them, they will bite it again. They'll still do it, and if, like, a lot of times you'll see, here again, Live Scope has taught us a lot, and it's a great learning tool. You'll see fish come up, look at your top water, and if you continue to see those fish come up and look at your top water, pick up that jerkbait and throw that jerkbait at them and see if they'll hit it. Because a lot of times them fish, once it gets cool, them fish will still be on the brush and they'll still set up in the top of the brush, but they won't come up and hit a top water, but they'll come up and hit something like a Seville down a little deeper, or they'll come up and they'll hit that jerkbait.
Okay.
But they won't hit a top water.
Okay. Discover Bass Adventure. Well, first, Joey Metcalf, and you ain't got to pull it up. I'm just going real well. 45-mile-per-hour winds tomorrow evening, debating either chickening out in my 18-footer or taking my chances and catch the hell out of them. Hey, I can tell you right now, if you guys are thinking about coming to fish North Georgia, it's closing about 2 hours early tomorrow because I might have one patterned over here near the shop. Let's just say that. I ain't going to let that wind stop me. He might be out there chasing them women. If you're a deer hunter, you know what I'm talking about. Discover Bass Adventure. Soft jerk bait or hard jerk bait. And I think what I'm talking about tonight is mostly the hard jerk baits. Do you throw to me a soft jerk bait? Does it play in the wintertime?
That's just a fluke, right?
It's a fluke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can, but I'm talking about the hard ones.
It does on a jig head.
Yeah, but you ain't. Yeah, it does. It does if you take it down. But he wants to know regular +1, +2 depths. Like, so when you're throwing jerk baits, and let's stick with the winter, not right now, but let's say in the wintertime, what are you using to get? Do you just have to see where the bait is to decide that, or do you go in with one in mind already?
I mean, I think it's a gradual decline, right? So you start out with your regular 110 or your mixed stick or something that rides like that 4 to 6. And then you go down to your +1 as the water gets a little colder, and then your +2. But like I like cranking a +2 a lot. So like taking a +2 and cranking it through a laydown things or where it shouldn't be, like that jerkbait is supposed to go down 12, 15 foot or whatever, and I'll go throw it in the back of a pocket in 5 foot, cranking it on the rocks, and I've been able to catch them doing.
But you got to make a bomb ass cast to do that, right? I mean, you got to get it out there to get that depth.
Yeah, and I like to throw it on 8-pound too. So I like
so you throw a little lighter line.
Down. Yeah, so throwing it on light line and a super noodly jerkbait rod. But
I got you. That's a good answer. You kind of agree with what he's saying there, Kevin?
What's that?
Like the regular, then the +1, +2. I mean, how do you determine what you're going to be throwing?
Where I'm seeing that bait and how deep down I'm seeing fish hitting bait.
So
I want a jerk bait that's going to run to the depth of where the fish are hitting the bait. And if they're hitting bait too deep, a jerk bait may not be your choice.
Okay.
If they're only coming up, if they're in, let's just say, for example, they're in 60 feet of water and they're only coming up 20 feet to hit bait, jerk bait's probably not going to be your deal.
So let the fish tell you.
If your fish are coming up, let's just say they're coming up, 15 to 20 feet from the surface to hit bait. Maybe a Stacy 90. Get down there about 15 foot. Mm-hmm. Get down there at that range where they're hitting that bait. I mean, if your bait's not where they're in their feeding zone, you're not going to catch those fish.
Makes sense. What is your favorite jerkbait brand?
I would say out of all of them, I would say probably the Vision 110 +1 Junior. That would be
the Junior.
Yeah,
Let it go a little smaller.
Junior. Yeah, they make it in the silent. But I've got a few. I like the the Shimano, the one that's got the flash.
What is that called
Flash
again?
boost.
blade,
Flash
yeah.
boost.
I
That's
like
right.
that jerkbait a lot.
blade in it. I like both of them. I like the deep diver, and I like the World Minnow. The World Minnow is kind of like the Vision 110. Kind of hits that. I think it hits the 6 foot range, if I'm not mistaken. And then that World Diver will kind of hit like a Stacy 90. It'll get down there about 15 foot or so.
Okay.
Of course, depending on your line, if you throw it on 25-pound test, you're not going to get a 15-foot diver down 15 foot. So you have to keep that in mind, and that could play too. I mean, maybe you could make an adjustment by throwing it on heavier line and get it to not dive as deep.
Right.
But those are things to think about. And I always like the Stacy 90s.
Yeah,
that's one that I'll keep hot and ready in the box. You know, of course, the Vision 110s. I think those are the gold standard.
Yeah.
For a jerkbait.
I got a question for you though, because he was talking about cadence when I brought it up like that. Using forward-facing sonar, and you see bait, you see fish. How do you? What are you reading on that to determine how your cadence is going to start? Is there any information that you can garner from that makes you tell how I'm going to start it, or do you start with a simple thing that didn't work, then change it? Can you read your forward-facing sonar and say, okay, that's going to be a pop, long pause? Is there any information there?
You can kind of watch the activity level of the fish, like how aggressively they're feeding on bait, and kind of, hey, maybe you need to work it more aggressive. Like if they're just really, really, really busting that bait, I mean, they're just hitting it. Work it fast. If you see the fish are kind of feeding on bait, but they're like want to come up and swipe at it, and then they sit under it for a little while. Then a nutting comes up and swipes at it, and then they sit under it for a little while. I'd do two things. I would target them fish really, really fast and see if I could move that bait around and get them to react. And the other thing I would try to do is, pop and then let it set and see if I can get them fish.
So you'd go from the extremes. You'd start off
go for
the
extremes. Yeah, I would go for the extremes.
Okay.
And see which extreme I could get them to play into.
Gotcha. All right, Joey Metcalf, do you put suspend strips on your +1? Do either you guys ever use suspend strips?
I change the hooks on them. I don't really do the suspend.
I like lead wire on.
You'll do wire around the hook
I'll do wire on the
sometimes?
front hook, but you also got to be careful of the hookup ratio. Like if I lose a fish because of that, like because I mean you're losing some of your shank. If you wrap that front shank, you're losing some of that hook gap. So it does make it a little bit different. But if they're eating it good, you're not super worried about it. But
Okay.
just to get it down.
Big hook on the front, you'll get it to dig a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, makes sense. So there's a good tip right there. So Scratch Fishing is doing. He's our investigator tonight. He says fish slot and size limits is a wormhole. I'll be a certified fisheries biologist before the night's end. And listen, Scratch, if you don't get all the answers tonight, join us Thursday with your answers. Because Thursday night I got one Bill Payne coming on to talk about wintertime fishing Thursday night. So going to be a lot of information there. And I promise you, we'll try not to go down too many rabbit holes like we did tonight. Let's see. 100% on Topwater to Jerkbait, Mike and Wendy Rice. That's you saying those fish will eventually they'll transition. Discover Bass Adventure. He wants to know the color. Pearl. What's your favorite color of your jerkbait? I will say this. I've caught more on a pearl colored jerkbait, but I don't throw them a lot. But I have caught more on a pearl color.
I like in the Stacy 90, I like the thread fin color. That's a good one. They have I don't know what they call it, but they have an elegy bone kind of color too, which kind of looks like that. What do they call that thing?
This name was the chartreuse?
They call that the skeleton.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that right there.
Skeleton.
Yeah.
You got that up? Can you pop that up close? Do I have an up close camera on me?
That right there is
not
kind
really.
of an elegy
I might not.
bone.
It's just this one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that one's got a loose cable. That's why it's going to be blinking a little bit, but it does give you kind of the color. All right, we can get off of that.
There's kind of an elegy bone kind of color. That's one of my favorite colors. And then, of course, the French pearl. And I like a pro blue.
Pro blue. What about you? You got a favorite jerkbait color?
Yeah, I like the matte shad and the French pearl, which is like I think it's called a French pearl. It's chrome and purple. I don't pay attention to the names. I'm like, that looks good, and that doesn't.
Like trout. Some of these guys come in to buy flies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for the margarita love maker, and I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Well, the mutilator I know, but it's
Yeah.
always some kind of crazy name. Farmer's back. He's got the kids in bed. Might be one to go spend some time with Mrs. Farmer is all I got to say right there. So Discover Bass Adventure. How hard do you jerk? Light tap, medium tap, hard rip. What are you laughing back at? What are you laughing? Because the farmer be giving him love advice?
Yeah.
Yeah. Farmer needs some love advice.
So
I love you, Farmer.
The bigger build jerk baits, I would hit them a little lighter.
The bigger build.
Mm-hmm. The deeper diver jerk baits, I wouldn't rip them quite as hard. The shallower divers, like the regular 110s, man, you can rip the heck out of them things. But them deeper diving jerk baits, if you really get to ripping and yanking on them, I think you'll kind of mess up the presentation. Of course, with any lure, don't get caught up in working it any one way, and especially with a jerk bait, would probably be one of the worst baits to just get locked into. Well, when I tie this lure on, I work it, pop, 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 and that's what you do the whole time. Mix that up. I mean, mix up your presentations on all of your baits, not just your jerk bait.
Okay. Right there. So, Farmer, have black spoons been talked about yet? Farmer, listen, it took us an hour and a half just to get talking about jerk baits, and that's the title of this show tonight. So, no, we ain't talking spoons tonight, dog. We just ain't going to have time to get to it. So,
Drop it down there, hit them on the head.
Farmer goes, I've got 2 kids. I know how it works. Listen, wait till you get in your 50s. You got to schedule it. I'm just telling you out there. So, well, and also you got to negotiate. You look at your wife and you both like, do we really want to put that forth that much energy tonight? No, I think I want to go to sleep. You'll get there one day, young man.
Oh, I've been there.
You ain't been there. How old are you?
26.
Yeah, 26. Yeah, 26. I was doing the wall. There was no stopping anything at 26. So, I tell you what. So, is there a better option for wintertime fishing to cover a lot of ground? If you're covering ground in the winter, are you doing it with things like a jerk bait? Or are you covering ground with like crankbaits? Like if you wanted to cover ground in the wintertime, what are you guys throwing?
Well, do you want to cover ground for shallow fish or deep fish?
Okay, let's say shallow fish. If shallow fish, we're covering ground. We want to find fish. What are we doing? What are we throwing?
Throw that jerk bait.
Jerk bait will work for that?
Burn it down the bank. Go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Spinner bait.
Crankbait, something like that.
Crankbait.
So it's not a bad
That's
option.
3.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's not okay. Well, what about deep?
Deep. Stroll in a minute with a heavier jig head on it.
I like a 3-inch swim bait this time of year because you can throw a 3-inch swim bait from now until March.
Now, when you say swim bait, you talking Kitex and stuff? Or
I'm talking, like 3-inch Cast Prodigy. I like that just because. So I used to be a big Kitech guy for a long time, and I now own 1 pack, and I just bought it tonight because I switched over to throwing the Prodigy when the Prodigy came out, and I caught 30 spots on 1 swim bait, and I was like, okay, this is way better than catching 1.
It is.
But I will say there is a difference. Like you can catch them good on a Prodigy one day, and you can catch them real good on a Kitech the next, or throw it go to 2 different ditches and catch them on each. Like they both play. I just got tired of buying packs of swim baits. So I was like, okay, they're either going to eat this Prodigy or they're not. But and I like the fact that I can do a lot with it. So it does have a big tail wag. When I don't want all that action, you can cut that tail down a little bit. So it's a little bit less action in the wintertime when the bait fish are moving slow and I'm dragging it through a ditch and I don't want all the lift of that big tail that it's got on it. You can kind of drag it through. But I mean, a Kitex is another great option. But the thing is whether you're on a bank, whether you're offshore, whether you're going down the bank in a boat, whether you're fishing out of a kayak, a 3-inch swim bait this time of year, you're going to match the hatch of that smaller bait, the thread fins. You can also match the hatch closer to them herring fish with just bump up your size a little bit. But I mean, it's just a bait that's going to get bit. You can work it high in the water column. You can drag it on the bottom. You can burn it over top of fish. Like it's something that you can use from fall, winter, early spring.
I got you. So Clarence Stowers wants to know: are you finding any A-rig bites yet? Have you even thrown it much lately?
Kevin don't throw an A-rig.
That's what when I asked
By
that.
the time I get an A-rig boat out and I've got clients on the boat, that's just not something that we're gonna do much of. Do I think it could be productive right now? Yeah, 100%. But that's just not something that I'm gonna be having laying all over the boat.
Good Lord, could you imagine that with some clients?
On the boat. And,
I've never understood the
Um,
A-rig bite.
Well, I mean,
What do you
it's
mean?
basically a bait ball.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I get
Yeah.
it. But what's crazy is you think about the evolution of bass and how they get more and more pressure and all this stuff. And you got 5 wires coming out.
Yeah.
And you've got wire and bait. And this, of course, and then you're catching, like, I was living in Texas for the glory days of OHIV in 2020 when all these giant double digits are getting caught on it. And yeah, their metabolism's moving slower. They're not seeing as good and all this stuff. And they just see and feel the vibration and go eat it. I get it. But just thinking about that wire, but we're sitting over here being like, oh, I'm throwing this shaky head on 7 pound. I should probably go down to 5.
Mhm.
It's like, it's a crazy dynamic to me.
So I know that Mike Buka, when he was on, was talking about his swim, like he throws like 80-pound braid or some crazy high braid on everything.
Mhm.
His reasoning for it, because I asked him, I said, what if they see the line? And I asked him, he goes, his reasoning was, have you ever seen an A-rig? It doesn't bother him with an A-rig for some reason. Why is my braid going to affect him any different than an A-rig?
Fair enough.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
When we finesse fish with a worm or a drop shot or something like that, you got to have that fluoro. It's got to be thin.
Mhm.
I hear guys on Lanier all the time.
Leader,
I go
yeah.
down to 6-pound test and all this because
it's different type of fishing too.
Fair enough.
that's fair. That's
So
fair. Yeah.
When you're making a finesse presentation, the size of your line has a lot to do with your rate of fall and your overall presentation of the bait. An A-rig, you're throwing it out there, let it fall to a certain depth and start winding it. You're not really, your line diameter doesn't really affect what that bait does a whole lot,
Right.
You're throwing something like a little itty bitty Nico worm. You throw it on 15-pound test versus 8-pound test.
Yeah.
You completely change the rate of fall with it.
You were the first person. I don't know if you remember this, but you were the first person since we started fishing North Georgia and you started coming up here to talk to me about the rate of fall on the shaky head. Because I was going to fish an electric tournament and you were kind of showing me some spots and you said, I was like, what do I throw it on? He goes, at that time you were throwing them on an 1/8 ounce head for that part. That time he goes, I'm telling you, it slows that down. And right now that's what they want is that slow fall. So you were, and that was more finesse, and you told me that, but you actually were the first person to ever discuss that with me, and I don't think that gets discussed. Rate of fall on baits a lot.
It's huge.
It is huge.
And how much line diameter affects the rate of fall?
I mean, that's just like getting that jerkbait down to depth.
Mm-hmm.
You throw it on 20-pound tests, your 15-foot diver is now an 8-foot diver because it will not get down that deep.
And you got to think about the
drag of the
scope of
line.
your line too. Yeah, like having that scope out. Like if you're making a super long cast versus if you're just dropping a drop shot. Like thinking about how your diameters go for that rate of fall.
Makes sense. Philip Hutchison, and listen, guys, we're getting close to the end of the show. So if you got any other questions, you might want to get them in. All right. Do y'all notice fish wanting an erratic retrieve versus a steady retrieve from day to day? One day they might want the erratic. I mean, I guess that's probably obvious. We all do. But do you ever see patterns emerge? Let's say week to week instead of day to day.
Let's say barometric pressure. If you got a falling barometer, they're going to be more willing to eat. They're going to be wanting more of an erratic, something crazy going on. Barometer goes up, high pressure day. They don't want that erratic retrieve. They get lethargic. They get slow. They get harder to catch. So I would think more along the lines of barometric pressure than I would, try to figure it out. Try to put the puzzle together with why they're doing what they're doing.
Okay, makes
try
sense.
To pattern that.
Let's see. The Echo, pull up farmer, the Echo outcaught the Prodigy last winter for me. Yeah, and they're both good. But I think what you're saying is The one thing you cannot deny, whether you like the Prodigy Echoes or whatever, them jokers last. I think they're great, but them jokers last. That's the biggest downfall with the Kitech. Kitech's a great bait,
and it's a completely different plastic. Like that, like it is like apples to oranges at the same. Like yeah, they're both a swim bait, but they are made completely differently. So, but the durability and the presentation is still similar. It's similar category.
I have noticed in the store this year though, I have sold less Kitechs than I have in years past. Less paddle tails, more of your straight tailed minnows and stuff.
I believe that.
More flukes compared to the year before. Like this year, that has been.
They ate a fluke this year better than that.
They did eat a lot of flukes. They you know something about them eating a fluke this year, at least on that live that one time. I think you could have thrown that thing in the daggum bushes that day and come out with a 3 or 4 pound spot. Braid just looks like a weed. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Unless you're using that high vis yellow like I like to use. Kim Pritt says, don't say black spoons. So we maybe need to do a show on black spoons. I don't know. Good question right here. One Fish Productions. Appreciate you joining us. No forward facing sonar. Where are you starting? And let's do it in the wintertime. Let's just say, hey, we're in a December. We're in a typical winter. Been cold back in it. Well, hell, really down these days, there is no more typical winter. But let's say as it should be, as we want it. Water temps in the 50s. Where are you starting with no forward-facing sonar? Where would you start? Because you're a kayak guy.
Starting with a map.
Starting with a map?
Yep.
Well, what are you looking for?
Ditches.
Ditches?
That's where I'm going to go first if I don't have any kind of electronics.
Ditches. Yeah, that's a good point. In the wintertime, ditches is a good place to start. I think you get a lot of numbers in ditches, so that makes them a little more
easier to catch.
Yeah, easier to catch or consistent.
Yeah.
Consistent. Now, what about you, though? No forward-facing sonar. Lake Lanier.
Take your paddle tail swim bait, whether it be a Prodigy, Kitech, whatever, and put it on a guppy head and throw it down the crack. Right down the middle.
That's exactly, yeah.
Get outside the timber line or you'll be hung up.
Would you start in the back of a pocket and work your way out, or would you start out in the pocket and work your way in?
I would position my boat on top of the timber in a pocket, and I would throw that thing as far as I could throw it on the clean side of the timber.
Yep.
Outside that timber line. So let's just say Lanier clear cut the timber to 45 foot. I'd position my boat a little bit inside of that to where when I reeled my bait to the edge of that timber, I would pull it up so I don't get it hung. But I would fish that edge up that clean place up to that timber line, and you'll catch all the fish you want to catch.
Yeah, and you don't need forward facing for that.
And you don't need.
You can just use your 2D to that.
You can pull up there and make 2 or 3 casts and leave if you don't get bit.
But you're pretty sure that is because you said you can catch all the fish you want right there.
You can catch all you want. They may not be 4 and 5 pounders, but you can catch fish doing that.
Okay. What about you?
I'd be going to the rocky clay points and dragging a jig or a shaky head.
That would be my number 2.
That would have been number 2.
Yeah.
So, but basically, what kind of he's in the ditch. You're on the ditch out by the timber line.
I would position. I'm telling you,
he's going to be a little shallower because he's a kayak guy.
Well, he could put his boat on the edge of that timber line too and drag back to the timber line. That way, you're fishing something. If you're trying to fish that thing in the timber, you're going to stay hung up all day. Make sure you carry your money saver lure retriever.
There you go, baby. I love it.
But if you're throwing it down the clean side up to the timber line, it's pretty clean. You ain't gonna be hung up all day unless you hit somebody's brush pile or just some random junk down there.
But I would say you love fishing minnow style baits, flukes and stuff like that. You like that, and you like dragging jigs and stuff.
I mean, I like throwing a minute or two.
I
think,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like we fish similar. It's just you got to fish the conditions. Like that's the thing is like especially.
Huh?
I really like throwing that crankbait. I don't get to do it much.
Yeah.
Is that because of clients?
That's a tough.
No, that's because of Lake Lanier. They don't eat that. That fella said it a while ago. They don't eat that crankbait on the Lanier. I think it was Adam W. fishing right there that said it.
Was he?
They don't eat a crankbait.
Was he being sarcastic?
Yeah, you have a time frame for it of when they'll eat it, and it's just, I wouldn't be surprised if you couldn't go out there tomorrow and catch them on it, but it just hasn't been consistent.
Yeah,
and I really enjoy throwing it in the spring
I like
on
that.
Lanier.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you. If you were gonna, I have still yet to catch a 5-pound spot on Lanier. If you're trying to target that trophy 5-pound spot, I feel like this transition into the winter time, early spring is probably the best time to do it if you're going to do it. Right? They're fattening up, they're getting fat, eating bait. I don't know. I'm just saying, what would you be doing to try to target a trophy?
Man.
Kevin, put my man on a megalodon. Put him on a megalodon. Where would you go?
Is it the same
asking-
stuff we've been
he's
talking
asking
about,
me
and
a
you're just
question
getting
I don't really want to
lucky?
answer on.
Oh,
Okay,
that's an
that's
after.
fair enough.
That's an
That's fair
after.
enough.
That's after the show.
That's for the subscription at the end
That's
of the
for the
month.
subscription.
That's on the OnlyFans.
The only thing. There you go. No, I get it. I get it
Fair
right
enough.
there.
We'll talk later. Then.
And guys, if I hear, I'll let you know. All right, I'll let you know. Farmer says, pull up Farmer right there. I like a breaker ledge off a flat this time of year for a jerk bait and a crankbait. As the fish start to move to their winter haunts, he wants to know what's y'all's high percentage areas. Now, is it what you just described, that timberline coming down to the timberline? Is that what you?
So usually before they get on a ditch bite, they'll end up in the tops of the timber on the pockets. They'll kind of meander around the tops of the timber, eat the bait, and and I think that's probably what we'll see them doing over the next couple of weeks with this cold snap that we got coming. And of course, I think we'll probably start to see some more size show up to some of these fish that's already in a ditch pattern. I mean, they've been in a ditch pattern for a while now, but there just ain't no size to them.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
like 2-pound cookie cutters or whatever you want to call them.
Okay. What's your high percentage area there, Clint?
I would say, I mean, your points and your secondary points outside of the ditches, things like that. I mean,
Still kind of relating to the ditch,
yeah,
but
where you know that they've got the creek or the river channels close, and there's going to be bait there. There's going to be structure there, some type of structure in that general area. I think your high percentage areas and your anomalies, right? So you're looking down a bank. Lanier, a lot of it's a bunch of these fingers. It all kind of looks the same. Like as somebody who's never been there, you're like, oh, well, that pocket looks good. That pocket looks good. Look at what makes it different. If you're going down a bank and it's 20 foot on this cut, and then it cuts in, and then 20 foot, and then cuts in, and then all of a sudden it's 40 foot right there, and it comes out to a steeper angle, that's your anomaly. That should be your high percentage area. And there's plenty of them I pull up to that I'm like, oh, that's different. I pull up, there's nothing there. But sometimes you can pull up and there is a lot of fish there relating to that, especially because they're in a transition period. They're moving. They're going to stop on something that's a little bit different than something that's all the same. And you got to think like your big obvious stuff, your big exaggerated points, your big blow throughs, things like that. If you're fishing a tournament and you got a bunch of boats out there, those community holes are going to be full of guys. So like you got to work to find your little sneaky spots and your little like where they cut the timber, where they didn't cut the timber, finding stuff like that, finding those different areas that are just a little bit different. Those anomalies, I think, are super important.
that makes sense right there. Hold on that. And Discover Bass, I think the money saver saved me $100 in the last 2 weeks of fishing in the brush. It works. I'm telling you, it works. And I know you know it works.
Oh, I like bobbies.
Okay, let me hit Eric's with that. So Mike has a crankbait on all year long, but Eric wants to know, do fish stay deep? Do deep fish stay deep until the spawn?
So, like ditch fish?
Or just deep fish, so like the timber fish? Do that?
There'll always be some fish out deep in timber. Of course, when you have a thermocline, they'll come up above it.
Right. But are those fish more likely to stay? I guess you could also say your offshore fish stay offshore and your shallow fish stay shallow. Do they ever just?
I think some of them fish might move up and get on like different things during moon phases and stuff. Like that, like them fish that were out there when you fished,
yeah.
and I told you them fish were gone the next day.
Yeah.
They obviously did not stay out there.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
So I
it was
wouldn't
just
really
incredible.
say that they stay in any one place. Of course, talking about ditch fish, you'll see ditch fish run from 60 foot of water to 5 feet of water and push herring in the back of pockets.
They do that.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do that.
They will do that.
You'll have guys catch them. Man, I fish shallow. I don't got to fizzle. Bull crap. You done caught one that just run up from 60 foot to the back of a pocket and chasing bait. So,
that's a good
there's
point.
a lot of variables to that.
That's a good point. Bobby wants to know, are y'all flipping a jig on straight mono, straight fluoro, straight braid, straight to braid, or braid to fluoro mono leader? And this is only because of Will Harkins, I switched my jig rods to mono.
I did too.
I switched to mono based upon Will Harkins saying, hey, I took that big game and I won it on mono. And so I purposely, just to experiment, took some trialing that I had over here. It wasn't big game, but it was mono. Rigged up my jig rods, and I have not noticed a single bit of difference other than I saved money. So for me, the answer is mono, just because I don't fish, and I don't fish a lot of tournaments like you guys do or out there as much. But what do you do on your flipping a jig?
So I fish two different types of jigs. I fish a finesse jig on a spinning rod that I will use fluorocarbon to braid, and then I'll fish. I've got this thing. Anything that sinks or dives, I want to throw it on fluorocarbon because fluorocarbon sinks.
Yeah. And I think that's a good answer like that.
That's what I do.
All right. So let's say farmer. Channel swings are huge during this transition for me. Love me some channel swings, like a 4-lane for transitioning fish. Absolutely. Adam W. Fishing. Saw your truck at Van's Tavern on Sunday, lip sticker. How was the fishing for you? I tell you what, listen, I was at Van's. You were there Sunday too or Saturday? You were there both days? I saw you there Saturday. Oh, you were at Laurel Saturday.
Yeah.
You were at Van's Sunday?
Yeah.
How was the fishing there? I got confused in my head because I saw you at Laurel.
Sunday caught a big. It was a grind because they had a lot of tournament pressure. It was a tough day, but we caught a good bag, and that's when we caught that big spot.
Yeah.
Big.
How much was that spot again?
It's over 5.
5+ spot. Those are, man. And you're over there like, I want that 5. But it was a grind.
It was.
All right. So, and we're going to end on this comment right here, because we were supposed to be talking jerkbaits all night, and we never got around to doing it a lot. I personally, with the jerkbait, like to throw it in the same places I throw a crank in the winter, which is shallow rock and dirty water. I feel they get conditioned to a crank. And you might be right, because like you said,
switch it up. Dude.
Switch it up.
I said I like to throw that jerkbait in there too.
Mm-hmm. So let's just do that, because we're about 2 hours in, guys. And so, hey, listen, I appreciate all you guys hanging with us for tonight. The conversation's been really good. Scratch fishing, if you're still watching and you're still researching, whatever you find out, shoot it to me on Messenger. We were talking about slot limits and all that earlier. So, Kevin, thank you. This was unplanned. You ended up having a day off and you were able to come hang with us. So I appreciate you coming up here and spending a couple hours. It's always a good time. Always a good time when you're here. And, of course, Clint, you and Alex, appreciate you guys, all the guys that are always on the podcast with me. I got a team, dude. I got some strong guys. I got a good team for both nights. So I appreciate you guys. And again, though, without you guys out there watching, it shows nothing. It's all about you. And again, it's all about you guys taking what you hear here, taking it out on the water, and trying to learn and catch some fish. So we appreciate you guys watching. And also, too, if you're out there, listen, the weather's going to change. If you're fishing the next couple of days, it's going to be windy. And I actually heard the wind's supposed to go all the way through the weekend. Maybe not what we get tomorrow with these big gusts, but definitely be safe. If you haven't pre-registered for the Toys for Tots tournament, December 7th, go to Buford Dam Bait and Tackle. Come here to Fish North Georgia. If you're out of the area and you want to fish, call me. We'll get you registered, because, again, you blast off in the order in which you signed up.
That's
okay.
what I did.
Kevin is signed up. There's a lot of, hey, listen,
I'm signed up.
You've signed up.
Yep.
I know a lot of you Lanier guys like to wait to the last minute or sign up the morning of, because you want that later flight, whatever. But I'll tell you, days are getting shorter. I don't know how that's going to work, but we want everybody to come out for the event, because, again, at the end of the day, it's all about the kids in Hall County that we're helping out Hall County Toys for Tots. So December 7th. But again, guys, you've been great. Thursday night, the legend, Bill Payne, the living legend, will be in the house. We're going to we'll try not to get crazy like we did tonight, covering a bunch of stuff. We'll try to, sap as much juice out of him as we can for you guys on winter fishing. So appreciate you guys. If you're listening on Spotify and iTunes, or you guys are watching later, hey, we appreciate y'all as well. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you on the next live.